Alright, I think I need to be fast on this one because I'm not sure how much memory my phone has right now. And there's something that this has actually happened a few times where I've been quite a ways into a video and then just had it cut off completely because I ran out of memory. So let's see how quick we can do this. Yeah, I did not finish that video in time. When I was in college and in high school, and especially college, because I worked at actually a couple of bookstores in college, and one thing that I found there is there was this massive room. It was filled with books, and there were literally hundreds of thousands of books in that room. And despite there being that many books in that room, there were not overly many books there that I would want at any given time. And, we had like a massive diet book section. I didn't, maybe I should have looked at that section more. We had, a massive self-help section that I really generally didn't care about. Puzzle books, horoscope books, really bad poetry, a lot of bad fiction, novelty books. A fifth of the store was children books, and actually got into a lot of those, but a lot of the old board books, and didn't have kids at the time, so had no interest in those things. Most of the Christianity section was really bad. These big, big sections of the store that I wanted nothing to do with. Mostly I hung out in science fiction, fantasy, a little nonfiction here and there, good biography, good history, but overall, it wasn't all that much that I wanted. And there's certainly, even then, many more books than I would ever read in my lifetime that I actually did want to read. But in the last many years, that has just expanded exponentially. We are in the midst of just really a revolution in the way we consume media that has opened it up massively for independence. And I think generally that's a good thing. As somebody who tried very hard to get published for many years by one of the big names, it's really nice to see to be able to see my books in print, and not spending all of my time trying to get the attention of some reader with stacks of manuscripts on their desk. Same thing with music. It's great, the stuff that we have available, the quirky, really niche stuff that would never get the kind of mainstream audience that would justify a major record label playing it. I mean, Techno Funk Boy is a prime example. I would never be able to get Techno Funk Boy into a label. EDM versions of old Nintendo themes. It's a very niche market. But for those who like it, it's a big thing to have this sort of stuff. And I've downloaded quite a few game soundtracks and stuff that I just really love and play all the time. And so I think that this independent revolution has generally been a very good thing. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on with it. I mean, the lack. I mean, we have a massive need. We have a massive need for good independent editors that are not going to charge a fortune to read manuscripts. And I think there's a huge market there for that. Because us independents, it's like we're trying to do so much ourselves, and I think that the cover art industry is responding. I would just love to see some really good editors out there. One of the bad parts about it is that, you know, with the rise of the independents, we are going to lose the books that the massive hits that everybody's read. And, you know, and the ones that do hit that level are generally going to be kind of right place at the right time books, or just so weird that they tickle somebody's funny bone. So, obviously from the change in scenery, I did not finish that video while I still had memory left, and so I wanted to do kind of a quick wrap up. So basically that's where the problem is. Where we have this market saturation of new media coming out, and all this independent art that's coming out, and some of it's great and some of it's horrible, but it's constantly flashing in front of our eyes. And as a creator, I think we need to change our expectations a bit. And, you know, so many of us, me included, you know, really thought, I'm going to make my living off writing and music. For me, writing and music. And I was going to do well for myself. And, you know, there's an outside chance of that, but that's really not going to happen. It's not. And for most of us, it's not. There's going to be very few people who can make a living off writing these days. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It does mean we're going to produce less. And it does mean that, you know, we're going to have to balance priorities. But if we keep going out of passion, you know, that we can still get an audience. But our expectation has to change. We have to change what we expect that audience to be. And that audience is probably not going to be millions of books anymore. It's probably not going to be millions of readers. It's probably not going to be millions of listeners. But, you know, we can, with the right marketing, develop a following of a few thousand, maybe. But, you know, but even more than that, it's like, as a consumer of media, I think it's really important for us to change our expectations. So most of us grew up having to go to the bookstore or order books online, and it was $10, and we couldn't consume that much of it. We couldn't buy that much because just finances, right? You know, and so, you know, a lot of us do have books on the shelves that we have never read, but most of the time you only bought the book that you're really interested in reading. You didn't just buy everything. And it was the same with music. And so now the instinct is, when we're looking online and we see a book that's halfway interesting for free or for $1, or a music that's free that, you know, it's like, okay, this sounds kind of mediocre, but it's free. The instinct is to hoard it. The instinct is to just grab all of it we can because it's free, it's cheap. And that is the wrong reaction to this. And I think as consumers, we have got to be as picky with free media as we were with paid media. We've got to be as picky with the massive amount of cheap content that's flashing before our eyes as we were when it was costing us $10 a book, or $15 a CD, or $10 a movie ticket instead of free on YouTube. And the reason is we got to get that mentality is because when I paid $15 for a CD, that I had already invested into that experience. I had already given of myself for that experience, you know, and it took me a while to earn that money. It took me a period of time of my blood, sweat, and tears to earn that money. And then I was passing it over because I expected that media experience to be worth more to me than that money. And I tell you what, even on those times when I picked up an album and I didn't like it very much, I still listened to it several times, trying to make myself like it, trying to go, okay, is there something here that's really worthwhile? Is there something that I can latch onto that I think is really good? Because I just dropped $15 on this, and I'm just not coming back. And now it was free, and so even if I loved it, it's like, well, that's great, but now I got another free album right here, and so I'm moving on. And so the good stuff, I'm not as invested in the good albums as I once was with the bad ones. And that's what I mean. It's like, because the money forced us to be very intentional about what we bought and what we consumed. And with that money taken away, we have got to be self-disciplined to appreciate what we're getting. The investment, the initial investment is gone. And so we have to invest our attention. We've got to invest our time in it if we're going to get anything out of it. And so that's what these videos are for. This is really a call for us to stop treating media like background noise. To stop treating media like it's just something, it's just the water we swim in. For all of history, writing and music and visual art and all these things were precious. And now we've reached a generation where they're not precious anymore. And we as that generation, if we're going to get anything out of art, we have to change that. Now, I'm not saying, don't to stop publishing. I'm not saying to stop playing music. I'm an independent. I want you to buy my books. I want you to listen to my music. And if you don't like it, I don't want you to get the next one, even if it's free. But if you like it, I would rather you invest your time and thought and focus and concentration on what I'm doing than for you to just download it and skim through it. If that's what you intend to do with my books, then I would rather you pass. I would rather you just not get it. I would rather have a couple of thousand of invested readers and invested listeners than tens to hundreds of thousands of people who are just downloading it because I ran a special where it was free or 99 cents. So this is my call to you, and this is my call to all of us, is to be intentional with what we're reading, of what we're looking at, of what we're watching, of what we're listening to be intentional, to listen to it again, to read it again, to focus on it, to not let it be background noise, to not let it be a way to pass the time, but instead to look at media with the intention of getting something important out of it.